Before we start, I would like to apologize in advance. Finding images and stock footage for these traps proved incredibly difficult. However, I decided to go forward with making the video anyway, because I already finished the script. I thought it was still an interesting topic to cover. Yeah. Anyway, let's start the video. Imagine stepping into an ancient temple, the air thick with dust, and the weight of history pressing down on you. Suddenly, clang! A wall of spikes slams shut behind you. No way out. Or maybe you trigger a hidden mechanism, and before you can react, water rushes in, sealing your fate. Ancient civilizations weren't just building wonders, they were designing death traps. Today we're diving into the most terrifying booby traps of the ancient world, and trust me, you wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of these. Before we start, if you happen to enjoy this video and find value in it, I would greatly appreciate it if you left a like so that more people may be able to find it. Additionally, if you don't want to miss out on more videos, why not subscribe? That way you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Let's get started now, shall we? Spiked doors and walls originated primarily in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia around 2000 BCE. Though archaeological evidence suggests similar mechanisms existed independently in ancient China and pre-Columbian Peru, these ingenious defensive mechanisms typically consisted of heavy stone or wooden doors balanced on pivot points, with metal or hardened wooden spikes embedded in their surfaces. When triggered by pressure plates or tripwires, counterweights would release, causing the doors to swing violently toward intruders, impaling them on the spikes. The Egyptian tomb of Pharaoh Amenemhat III, circa 1860 to 1814 BCE, featured one of the earliest documented examples, a granite door weighing nearly 2 tons with bronze spikes that could be activated by disturbing certain floor tiles. Perhaps the most notorious incident involving spiked doors occurred in 1922. That's when Howard Carter's expedition discovered Tutankhamun's tomb, though the trap had long been disabled by tomb robbers. Carter's team found evidence of a spiked mechanism that had claimed the lives of at least 2 ancient intruders, whose remains were discovered pinned against a wall. In medieval Europe, castles adopted variations of these traps, with the most elaborate examples found in German and Italian fortresses, where entire hallways could transform into Iron Maidens when triggered. Modern interpretations of these ancient devices have appeared in countless films and video games, most famously in the Indiana Jones franchise, though typically exaggerated beyond their historical capabilities. Archaeological experiments have demonstrated that many ancient trap mechanisms would have remained functional for centuries if left undisturbed, suggesting that numerous unexplored tombs and ruins may still harbor deadly surprises for unwary explorers. Flood traps emerged as sophisticated defensive mechanisms in ancient Mesopotamia around 3000 BCE. That's where the control of water through complex irrigation systems naturally evolved into weaponized applications. These ingenious systems typically consisted of concealed reservoirs positioned above chambers or corridors, connected to trigger mechanisms that would release torrents of water when activated. The Babylonians perfected these systems by the 18th century BCE, incorporating them into temples and palaces as last resort defenses against invaders. Archaeological evidence suggests the most advanced examples could deliver over 500 gallons of water within seconds, either drowning intruders outright or forcing them into secondary traps such as concealed pits or areas where defenders could easily target disoriented victims. One of the most remarkable discoveries of ancient flood traps occurred in 1963 at the Temple of Anu Adad in modern-day Iraq. That's where archaeologists uncovered a sophisticated system dating to around 2200 BCE that could flood an entire subterranean chamber in less than 30 seconds. The water would pour through openings disguised as decorative elements in the walls. In China, the tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang constructed in the 3rd century BCE, reportedly contained mercury rivers and automated flood mechanisms, though these remain largely unexplored due to preservation concerns. Medieval European castles later adapted these concepts into drowning rooms, sealed chambers that could be flooded from above through hidden pipes when triggered by unwary intruders. Modern archaeological interpretations have revised earlier assumptions about these traps, suggesting they served dual purposes as both defensive measures and symbolic representations of the afterlife journey in many ancient cultures. Recent experimental reconstructions have demonstrated that these water-based mechanisms were remarkably sophisticated, employing principles of hydraulic engineering that wouldn't be formally documented until thousands of years later, highlighting the ingenious problem-solving capabilities of ancient engineers working without modern scientific understanding. Now imagine exploring an ancient temple in the dead of winter, deep in the mountains, searching for lost history. The last thing you want to worry about? Freezing to death before you even spot the first trap. That's where action heat comes in. Their heated clothing keeps you warm, so you can focus on what really matters, like dodging spike walls and making it out alive. Whether you're braving the cold on an expedition or just trying to stay warm in everyday life, Action Heat has you covered. Hidden spike traps originated in prehistoric times around 10,000 BCE, first appearing as primitive hunting pits covered with branches and leaves, before evolving into sophisticated defensive mechanisms in ancient Egypt around 2500 BCE. These deceptively simple devices consisted of concealed pits dug into pathways or floors, with sharpened wooden stakes or metal spikes positioned upright at the bottom, and often treated with poison in more advanced iterations. The ingenuity of these traps lay in their concealment, typically covered with thin layers of material matching the surrounding environment, supported by breakaway frames designed to collapse under minimal weight. The Nubian pyramids of Meroe, dating to the 8th century BCE, featured some of the most elaborate examples, with intricately engineered pressure-sensitive coverings that would appear identical to solid flooring until stepped upon. Perhaps the most infamous implementation of spiked traps occurred during the Punic Wars in the 3rd century BCE. That's when Carthaginian defenders created massive fields of concealed spike pits outside their city walls, claiming hundreds of Roman soldiers who were funneled into these areas during sieges. Vietnamese forces later perfected these mechanisms during conflicts spanning from the 10th through the 20th centuries, developing the notorious punji traps, small, disguised pits containing bamboo spikes coated with excrement to ensure infection. These proved devastatingly effective against technologically superior forces. Archaeological evidence from the Maya city of Tikal revealed sophisticated stone-lined spike pits dating to the 6th century CE, strategically placed along ceremonial pathways, suggesting these devices served ritualistic as well as defensive purposes. Modern interpretations have influenced contemporary security systems, with non-lethal versions appearing in high-security facilities as man-traps. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that properly constructed ancient spike traps could remain viable for decades with minimal maintenance, and their psychological impact on invading forces often outweighed their physical toll, creating hesitation and fear that would significantly slow advancement through unfamiliar territory, giving defenders crucial tactical advantages even when the traps themselves claimed relatively few victims. Ancient traps offer surprising wisdom for navigating modern challenges. Here are several valuable life lessons we can extract from these ingenious defensive mechanisms. Prepare for the unexpected. The spiked doors of ancient Egypt teach us that preparation for unexpected challenges is essential. Just as tomb designers created elaborate mechanisms that remained functional for centuries, we must build resilience for unforeseen difficulties. For example, consider Sarah, who maintained an emergency fund despite her stable job. When her company unexpectedly downsized during an economic downturn, She had 6 months of expenses covered while her unprepared colleagues faced immediate financial crisis. Her defensive mechanism activated precisely when needed, giving her time to find new opportunities without panic. Look before you leap. Hidden spike traps remind us to thoroughly examine situations before committing. The Roman soldiers who rushed blindly into Carthaginian trap fields mirror our own tendency to make hasty decisions. For example, Michael nearly invested his life savings in a guaranteed return investment opportunity that promised exceptional returns. By taking time to research the company, consult financial advisors, and examine the fine print, he discovered it was actually a sophisticated Ponzi scheme that had already trapped dozens of investors who failed to look beneath the surface. Be adaptable when facing rising challenges. Flood traps demonstrate how quickly circumstances can change, transforming a manageable situation into an overwhelming one. The ability to adapt quickly when waters rise is crucial. For example, when Elena's small bakery faced closure due to a new shopping center opening nearby, she didn't panic. Instead of fighting the inevitable flood of competition, she adapted by creating specialty items the larger stores couldn't match, developing delivery services, and partnering with local coffee shops. Her business not only survived but thrived by transforming what seemed like a disaster into a new opportunity. Recognize that appearances can be deceiving. The carefully disguised coverings of spike pits teach us that dangerous situations often appear safe initially. Developing critical thinking helps us see beyond surface appearances. Let's say that James received an email that appeared to be from his bank, complete with proper logos and formatting, requesting verification of his account information. Instead of clicking the link, he noticed subtle inconsistencies in the sender's address and contacted his bank directly, discovering it was an elaborate phishing attempt that had already compromised several accounts. Create mechanisms that work even when you're not present. Ancient trap designers created systems that functioned long after they were gone. Similarly, we can establish processes, habits, and systems that continue protecting our interests automatically. Let's say that Tasha, a freelance graphic designer, created templates, client onboarding systems, and automated billing processes that continued working efficiently even when she took a 3-week vacation. Her passive defense mechanisms maintained her business boundaries and professional standards without requiring her constant attention. By studying these ancient protective mechanisms, we gain insight into timeless principles of security, foresight, and strategic thinking that remain relevant in navigating our complex modern world. The ingenuity of ancient engineers reminds us that thoughtful preparation and careful attention to potential threats can help us avoid life's many hidden traps. History isn't simply a collection of distant events, but a source of wisdom that can inform how we navigate our complex world today. Until next time, let's all learn from history together and apply those lessons to our lives.